What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? World, you already know what time it is. Your boy Matt Miss the host with the most never need to brag no boast. I'll be here with the visit, give a toast to the real folks who done paved the way and the real way. Both players to play. And parlay this good game for y'all today. They said Keefe D killed Pac. I don't believe it. You know why? Because Keefe D is a known liar. He's a known liar, and he'll do anything to get it himself out. You know what I'm saying? How did you come from Kingpin that was getting like 100 keys a month with known liar on dry snitching on the dead? I don't care if Orlando Anderson is dead. You don't dry snitch on people, bro. You don't snitch on people, bro. These guys are super rats, and they have us believing that some type of tough guy or some type of like, you know, once you do all that rat shit, everything that you say that you think that looks gangster gets sent out the window right away. You know what I'm saying? No ifs, ands, and buts about it. So that's just how I feel about it, you know. Y'all can feel how y'all want to feel, but I don't take rats information at face value. You know what I'm saying? Because what does Keefe D really know? What do we know about Keefe D other than he moved to Las Vegas a little bit after the shooting? Any gangster would know not to take a deal with prosecutors in LA, knowing damn well that the shooting didn't happen in LA, it happened in Las Vegas. So Nevada has different laws, different stipulations on these certain situations. So there's a lot to unpack this situation. Let's go.
1996. Of those 6, only 5 were at the murder scene at 11:30 p.m. at the stoplight where the shooting took place. And of those 5, only 2 are alive today, Keefe D and Suge Knight. There's a lot of conceptions and misconceptions concerning what really went down on that tragic night. And fortunately, Keefe D has been singing like a bird ever since the cops gave him a proffer agreement that protected him from prosecution for his confession. Today, we know it wasn't complete protection after all. Today, Keefe D is behind bars awaiting trial and might soon find himself facing a very long time behind bars for a murder he could have just shut his mouth about. But what really happened on the night Tupac died? Well, we know enough not to expect nothing from Suge. We know Suge's not going to say nothing. The Sugar Bear got his lips on Velcro mode, tight and sealed. So all we have is Keefe. So what really happened to Tupac? What can we learn about Tupac's murder if we explored it through Keefe D's eyes?
A proffer agreement is not immunity. People get this confused. There's no immunity in a proffer agreement. All a proffer agreement is that information that you provide that is self-incriminating cannot be used against you.
Keefe D has got to be one of the most inconsistent snitches in the history of snitchery. The man wrote a book, did a BT interview, and went from DJ Vlad to The Art of Dialogue to My Mama's Podcast, waffling with glee about his involvement in death of one of the greatest rappers of all time. And yet he's always fumbled over the details of what exactly happened. Like how he says he saw Pac and Suge the day before they took his life. But that couldn't have been possible because Pac and Suge had flown into Vegas on the same day he would meet his demise. So why should we believe a word that comes out of his mouth? Well, we can, because the police have confirmed that he was around the crime scene on the day Pac died. They confirmed through his testimony and the testimony of witnesses who were around the scene. Another reason why we can't throw the baby with bathwater in this regard is because this event happened 25 years ago. Keefe has sang through half of it. So for the inconsistencies, we can blame age, time, and the tendency for Keefe to embellish his story to make himself sound tough. Happens all the time. And lastly, none of his critics have said he wasn't there. They know he was, and that he was the final catalyst for the series of events that led to Pac's gruesome murder. So what were those events? For many, the events that led to the murder of Tupac began on the night of September 7th, 1996. But for Keefe D, it began way earlier. It began with a chance meeting with the bad boy exec himself, P. Diddy.
You said that you was on top of the world until you met Puffy. What you mean by that?
Man, yeah, I was getting 300 kilos a month, man. Balling, man. Didn't nobody know about me. My shit was smooth, dude. My shit was laid out smooth, man. I met your and all the heat and thunder coming around.
I don't need to tell you this after you just saw that clip, but Keefe D isn't exactly chummy with Diddy. In his words, he wishes he'd never met the dude. And Diddy probably feels the same way too, especially when you consider how Keefe has been putting him on a daily blast. However, it doesn't matter because the man who introduced them both, their go-between, was Eric Von Zip Martin, a notorious and highly dangerous Harlem kingpin whose role in Tupac's demise was undisputed. In fact, even if you wanted to dispute it, the facts of the matter, the circumstances that surrounded Diddy, and how he operated with the underworld, you'd find quickly that there was no way on earth that Diddy would be involved in Pac's death, and Von Zip wouldn't be cooking. From 1991 to 1996, Keefe D was Diddy's protection whenever the homie was in Cali. He was his check-in. He did favors for him. Concerts, events, birthday parties. Anytime Diddy had to show up on the west side, Keefe was right by his side. And as you would expect, he was rewarded accordingly. But things were about to change. Every bonfire needs some sort of lighter. And before you're gonna light stuff, you must get some fuel. In this case, the lighter came with the death of this guy, Jake Robles, in 1995. Y'all are aware of the rivalry between Diddy and Suge, Death Row and Bad Boy, the East Coast and the West Coast. So I don't need to get into all of that. What you should know, though, is that Jake Robles was Suge's day one homie. He was his bodyguard and friend, and his death would come as a direct result of a scuffle at Jermaine Dupri's birthday party that both Suge and Diddy attended in Atlanta. To put it simply, the headline on the street was, Diddy's people shot Suge's right-hand man, and it was at that moment that the heat turned up to 11.
And they keep telling you the story of Biggie and Tupac and stuff like that. You never hear names like Jake being included.
That death is arguably the most important death in hip hop, because usually when these rappers get killed, it was street that ended up getting into rap. Jake was the first time rap turned into street.
Diddy might have been diabolical in the 90s, but Suge was hardcore, and he wanted blood. Word on the street, Suge wanted Diddy's head. There was no telling what he would do. And there's no conversation out there that really points to how threatened Diddy felt in the beginning. But we can point to the exact moment that hit the fan and Diddy had had enough of running from the Sugar Bear. The Christmas piss drinking party of 1995.
He might have got a few punches, and he probably drunk about 20 shots of piss. You know what I mean? Literally.
What you just heard is actual audio footage of Suge Knight admitting to forcing piss down the throat of a friend of Diddy's. The victim here was Mark Anthony Bell. For some reason, and in the heat of this conflict, Mark, who was an employee of Bad Boy, a well-known one, decided to attend a death row Christmas party in Hollywood Hills. It didn't take long for him to stick out like a sore thumb, and the moment Suge saw him, he seized the opportunity by the throat. Suge tried and failed to squeeze intel about where Diddy's family house was in Los Angeles from Mark. I mean, gotta give the man credit. Mark might have been dumb enough to party in hell, but at least he was wise enough to keep his mouth shut. He didn't say nothing. So Suge, Pac, and a couple of death row crew members took Mark upstairs and gave him a beatdown before humiliating him by forcing him to drink a couple of shots of his own piss. Now, Diddy ain't slow. He knew what this meant. He knew Suge wasn't playing. The death row boss wanted his pound of flesh, and the attempts at figuring the location of his family house meant that the Sugar Bear wanted to take that pound from where it would hurt. So Diddy decided to go on the offensive, and it is the decision he took next that most people say led directly to Pac's tragic demise. There were two bounties, and the first had to do with a death row chain and a contract sent out to the Southside Crips. Word on the street, Diddy had placed a $10K bounty on death row chains to Southside Crips.
Is it true that Puff Daddy had a bounty on the death row chain?
No. So like they say, they said it's $10,000. It don't make sense because the chains weren't worth $10,000. Some little punk change worth about $500-$600 back then.
Now, this is one of those moments where either Keefe is slow, doesn't know what he's saying, or he's just clearly capping. Because anyone who's heard the story knows that the contract on that chain wasn't about no dollar amount. It was about intimidation, sending a message and turning Suge and Pac into a target. Diddy was playing territorial chess and the Crips were the puns. Now, I know there is no evidence to prove Diddy had put out that contract, but even Greg Kading had cause to believe that a bounty had been put out even though there was no evidence.
There's no evidence that there was an actual bounty. It's not like we have a written contract that somebody produced and go look at. Here's the bounty. You know, but this is perceptions. And if death row people believe there's a bounty on their chains and people are trying to steal their change, which we know happened, then there's a reason to believe that it's true.
Let's not lie to ourselves. There was a bounty. And whether or not Diddy co-signed it directly, there was no denying he was neck deep in the whole affair. In fact, the person that would snatch the chain was none other than Orlando Anderson. Orlando Baby Lane Anderson was a Crip and the nephew of Keefe D, and the person he snatched the chain from was a blood and a lil homie in the death row squad. This was the background, the scenery. Now we have all of the pieces in place, the foundation laid. Let's dive into how the Tupac murder went down. It was the night of September 7th, 1996 at the MGM Grand in the heart of Vegas. Everyone that was there for one thing, the highly anticipated Mike Tyson boxing match. Even Keefe D, Orlando Anderson and his crew. Tupac Shakur was there along with Suge and the death row crew and the young blood who got his chain snatched. Now the story goes that no one was expecting what was going to happen next. Like I said, no one was originally there to cause trouble. The shit that would go down just presented itself on a platter, and it came in the form of Orlando Anderson walking past the death row crew. The young blood whose chain was snatched spotted Orlando Anderson and alerted his crew. Tupac immediately took the memo, got personal about the whole affair, and attacked Orlando Anderson. Before he could even know what was popping, the whole death row entourage was popping him. Now, there's something to be said about what inspired Pac to go after Baby Lane the way he did. And for those that believe it had to do with their gang affiliations, I put it to you that you know nothing about Pac. Pac was a thug, not a gangster. He stood up for the little guy on the street. He wasn't waving flags. And I say this knowing well enough he was under Peru blood protection as a result of his affiliation with Suge. What I'm saying is this: when Pac saw Baby Lane, he saw an oppressor and he wanted to put him in his place. Was it rash? Of course it was. Was it wise? Of course it wasn't. Keefe himself would say that the Bloods didn't do enough to hold him back. Sure, Pac was hard to control, but a hit on a Crip by a rapper affiliated with the Bloods was a call for war, and Keefe answered that call. Now keep all of this in mind, because when it was happening, it was outside Keefe D's sightline. While this was going on in the casino, Keefe D was having dinner with his crew at the MGM hotel that was some couple distance away.
We went to eat. We was eating. Man, they came and said, "He just beat up Lane." We was in the hotel. Yeah, at the MGM and the restaurant. There was a few New Yorkers though with him. Like, man, y'all need some help. We got this.
He heard it. His nephew was beaten up by Suge's crew, and that it was Pac that initiated the beatdown. When Keefe would see Lane moments later, the young blood's shoulder was fucked up by the beating. Now I'm asking, if it was you in that situation, what would you have done in his shoes? Mind you, I'm not trying to justify Keefe D. I'm just exploring possibilities, because if your answer to that question was to return the favor and equal beat down on Pac, you should know that it was probably the original intention. I can't say for certain, but there is a possibility it was. However, two factors were in place that ensured that there would be nothing less than a violent re-allusion to the affair. The first factor came in the form of the individuals at Keefe D's dinner. Keefe was eating with Terrence T. Brown, DeAndre Big Dre Smith, Eric Von Zip Martin, and his New York crew. Now you see, the first two names might not have been a problem, but those last two, Eric Von Zip Martin and his New York crew, that was where the real problem began. Because you see, Von Zip was Diddy's right-hand man in the streets. He was beyond a confidant. Some say he was even the godfather of Biggie's son. So he was the custodian of the second problem that complicated that night into a murderous mess. Diddy had placed $1 million bounty on both Tupac and Suge's head, and Von Zip was the one tasked with facilitating the whole hit. According to Keefe D, Von Zip told him right there about the bounty, offered him a gun, and offered him help in taking out Tupac Shakur.
Perfect opportunity, baby.
That was Zip talking?
Yeah.
Because of what happened with Lane?
He told me in the lobby that he had some Jimmys.
Some what?
He had a Jimmy in the Benz. He had a little secret compartment. Thing popped out. Popped out. Yeah.
In the armrest?
Yeah.
Armed with a gun, moving with ill intent, and backed by both his crew and Von Zip's New York crew, Keefe D went in search of Pac. He even got into Von Zip's van while his own crew moved in the Cadillac. And yeah, we must not forget, Orlando had joined them at this point. He was in the Cadillac. They knew where Pac and Suge were bound for after the MGM row. Word was that they would be headed for Club 662 where Pac would perform. So that was where they went. All of them. Keefe D and his crew, Von Zip and his New York crew. They parked in the parking lot waiting for him to show up, but they didn't show up.
We waited about 15, 20 minutes. They didn't show up. So it's like, let's go get some liquor. And Corey, oh, they gonna kill him, dog. You know, let the police kill him up and all that. Man, you crazy. Stopped at the liquor store. I got out the van. jumped in the Cadillac.
The New York crew had gotten cold feet, and you can't blame them. Pac was at the top of the world at this point. He was uber famous, and this hit was sure going to be the hit of the century. So when Pac didn't show up as scheduled, they began to get scared. Now, it's not particularly clear what Von Zip's reaction was to his own crew's cowardice, but it pissed Keefe enough to go with his own crew to finish the job without Von Zip's direct help, but he still had Von Zip's gun. So where was Pac and Suge during all of this? After Pac had beat up Baby Lane, he and Suge had stopped by their hotel room. Neither Von Zip nor Keefe had factored this in. They both thought the two of them would get on straight to the club. So throughout the time they was waiting in the parking lot, Pac had been deliberating with Suge in the hotel room. A couple of decisions had been made that reduced the witnesses who would have been privy to Pac's killing. And the most important one was that Pac's bodyguard, Frank Alexander, was reassigned to a separate vehicle where the rapper's girlfriend at the time, Kidada Jones, was. But there was more to the delay than just a stop at the hotel room, because 1 hour before 12 on Las Vegas Boulevard, bicycle-mounted police stopped Pac's car for its loud music and lack of license plates. The plates were found in the trunk, and the car was released without a ticket. 15 minutes later, Pac would get shot. But hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The last time we left Keefe, they were on their way back after a disappointing wait at the club. So what happened in those 15 minutes that caused Keefe D's path to cross Pac's? At this point, Keefe himself had given up on the hit, and they were all headed home or to the hotel, wherever it was. I use the word wherever very cautiously because their paths would cross in the most unlikely of ways. Keefe D saw them first. They was in a BMW, and Pac was sticking half his body outside the window, speaking to some women and inviting them to join him in the club that he was now headed to. That was an error that Pac didn't know he had made. Keefe D and his crew didn't know Pac's car or what car they would be in. So there is the possibility that he could have passed them and they wouldn't have known. There is a scenario where Pac would still be alive today, but the error had already been made. And now Keefe and his crew were circling back, ready to finish the job. They weren't going to follow him to the club. They weren't going to wait. They was going to pull the gun on him the first chance they got. But who amongst them was going to pull the trigger?
The Cadillac is being driven by Terrence Brown. In the front passenger seat is Keefe D. Behind the driver is DeAndre Smith. And in the right rear passenger seat is Keefe's nephew, Orlando Anderson.
You could ask, why didn't Keefe D just pull the gun himself since he was the one carrying the idea from the jump? Well, that seating arrangement is the reason why not. Because you see, in a couple of minutes, their vehicle was going to pull up to the passenger side of Pac's vehicle at a red light. And since PC was seated right next to Suge, who was driving, and since Keefe was on the other side, there was every chance he would miss. Too much room for error and not enough for a smooth escape. So the next best option was DeAndre Smith, who was right behind the driver, but he turned down the offer. He must have realized how crazy what they were planning to do was. One slight error and they would be dead meat. He wasn't going to be that guy. So who was going to pull the trigger? Well, the answer to that question was Keefe's own nephew, Orlando Brown.
I thought he was going to pull on my side. You know, that's my little nephew. I'm going to look out for him. You know, he pulled off on his side.
So you were fitting to blast if you had to, or you were just...
Yeah, if we would have been on my side, I would have blasted.
Okay.
Orlando Brown took the gun, leaned over DeAndre Dre Smith, and shot into Pac's vehicle 4 times. 4 bullets. Pac was struck all 4 times. Once in the arm, once in the thigh, and twice in the chest, with 1 bullet entering his right lung. Keefe would say that immediately the shooting began, Pac, in shock, tried to jump into the back seat, trying to avoid the bullets. Unfortunately, he had no chance. Meanwhile, there's this rumor that has spread since the incident that Suge used Pac as a human shield. Keefe says it is false. He says that Suge's first instinct was to protect his head and body. They even thought he was dead because he was a bloody mess. He got hit on the head by shards from the bullet. Pac was rushed to the University Medical Center of Southern Nevada, where he was heavily sedated and put on life support in the intensive care unit. 5 days later, on the afternoon of September 13, 1996, Shakur died from internal bleeding. He was pronounced dead at 4:03 p.m. Meanwhile, immediately after the shooting, Keefe and his bloody gang went drinking.
So what happened with the gun? Where y'all stashed the gun?
I left it on the tire in one of them cars in the parking lot.
What did y'all do with the white Cadillac?
Took it back to the rental car place.
The very next day, they were out of Vegas. On their way home, Keefe D would tell everyone in the vehicle, including Orlando, that they couldn't say nothing. They had to keep their mouths shut. This was the only way they could stay free and alive, he said. He was right, and they did, for the most part. Baby Lane, the one who actually pulled the trigger, kept denying his involvement up until he died.
From 1995 to date, have you ever ridden in a white Cadillac?
No.
Do you know anyone who owns a white Cadillac?
No.
Orlando Baby Lane. Anderson would die in an unrelated May 1998 shooting in Compton. The other backseat passenger, DeAndre Big Dre, or Freaky Smith, also kept his mouth shut. He denied any involvement in the Pac killing, and he would die of natural causes in 2004. The getaway driver, Terrence Bubble Up Brown, went as far as saying he wasn't in Vegas on the day Pac was killed.
Orlando Anderson, of course, was on tape at the MGM. and Keefe D, his uncle, admitted to being there. T. Brown, however, for his part, denied that he was in Vegas that weekend.
Don't tell me that you didn't go to Las Vegas. What you're going to tell me, Terry, is who you went there with and where you stayed.
T. Brown was found shot dead from multiple gun wounds at a rundown legal high shop in Compton in September 2015. Suge still won't say a thing and is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence for running over and killing a Compton businessman outside a burger stand in January 2015. And Keefe D is currently facing trial with a public defense attorney and a possible lifetime of jail time ahead of him.
At 7:03 p.m. Las Vegas time, Tupac Shakur passed away, y'all.
Trouble-plagued rapper and actor Tupac Shakur is dead at the age of 25.
Rap star Tupac Shakur died last night after a brief life in a rough business.
Shakur was shot 4 times after leaving the Mike Tyson boxing match in Las Vegas in a car driven by Marion Suge Knight, the head of his label, Death Row Records.
The murder of all time. At the height of his career, the then 25-year-old musician and actor was shot dead in the middle of the street in the heart of Las Vegas. The star's violent death caused shockwaves far beyond the rap scene. To this day, the case remains unsolved. Although there are ongoing developments, investigators are still baffled, even though someone was arrested in connection with Tupac's murder in the fall of 2023. And perhaps they will remain so forever. Because even if there are people who must know exactly what happened in the attack on Tupac on September 6, 1996, these people remain silent. One thing is clear. With Tupac's success came enemies. In this case, it's about the dark side of the US rap scene, about gang disputes between the East and West Coasts, and about conflicts with other musicians that may have ended fatally.
The East Coast don't love Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Death Row. Y'all don't love us.
Any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
Tell me, what does Tupac Amaru Shakur mean?
Okay, it means, I was named after this Inca chief from South America whose name was Tupac Amaru, but it's a lot of people named Tupac Amaru. It's like a whole tribe named Tupac Amaru. So my mom named me after this Inca chief, and I think the tribal breakdown means like intelligent warrior, something like that. But
I see.
he's a deep dude.
Tupac Amaru Shakur was born on June 16, 1971. He and his half-sister grew up with their single mother. There was a stepfather, but he was sentenced to 60 years in prison for a bank robbery. Both the stepfather and Tupac's mother, Afeni, were members of the Black Panther movement at the time. The organization advocates for the Black community and socialist values. However, in connection with their activism, the two also crossed legal lines. Afeni spends the first months of her pregnancy with Tupac in prison. She's accused of planning a bomb attack in favor of the Black Panther movement. She's arrested and imprisoned for several months before she gives birth to her son in New York. Tupac, his half-sister, and his mother live in modest circumstances until the family moves to Baltimore. There, Tupac spends what he will later describe as the happiest time of his life. He has a lot of access to culture and art of various kinds because his high school has a special focus on these areas. He engages in poetry, ballet, theater, and, increasingly, rap music. The following interview, in which Tupac reflects on his childhood, was also conducted at that time. He was only 17 years old at the time.
No, actually, I think it's, well, okay, from my mother's point, well, if you grew up happy, too happy, you know, like in fairy tale land, not fairy tale. I mean, if you grew up where, you know, every Christmas you got a present and every birthday you got a present, and every holiday was a holiday and everything was peachy. Your parents took care of everything and you just grew up. I don't think that prepares you for the world. You know, my mother had a really bad childhood and my father had a bad childhood and I had a bad childhood, but I love my childhood. Even though it was bad, I love it. I feel like it's taught me so much. And I feel like nothing can faze me. You know, nothing in this world, nothing can surprise me.
But just a few months after this recording, Tupac was indeed surprised by life. In 1988, the family moved again, settling near San Francisco. At this point, as Tupac himself later said in retrospect, he went off the rails. The time when he was able to express himself artistically in Baltimore was over. Instead, the family was once again confronted with harrowing reality.
I wanted to go to college. I went to school all the way and was ready to go to college. The only thing that stopped me was money. The time all the kids in my school was writing applications to go to college, I didn't have no lights and no electricity.
Tupac's mother, Afeni, was a heavy drug addict at the time. Her relationship with her son suffered greatly as a result. She regularly used crack and slid further and further down. Tupac himself starts making his money from drug deals and associates with shady characters. Although he resents his mother's addiction, as a teenager he makes money from drug deals himself. Everyday life is much harder for the family than in almost idyllic Baltimore.
They got little Italy, little everything. They don't have a little Africa. They got the ghetto, and we think that that's ours. That's not even ours. That's just what was left over.
At the same time, Tupac gradually managed to gain a foothold in the music business. His initial interest in rap had now become a real passion. This music style could be easily combined with two of Tupac's other passions, dancing and writing rhymes. Tupac not only has undeniable talent, but also manages to make valuable contacts over time. Even though his performances are only small and mostly take place in local clubs, the young rapper stands out. On stage, he has a special charisma. And in 1991, Tupac's talent and ambition began to bear fruit. He became a background dancer for the rap group Digital Underground. Later, he had small raps in the band's songs. And so the talent that would become one of the greatest rappers of all time in the years to come was finally discovered. Tupac signed a contract with Interscope Records, a well-known record company, with which he released his first album in 1991. From now on, everything seems to happen quickly, because the record is a huge success. In addition to numerous performances, Tupac now even gets roles in some feature films. In the following years, the rapper sells millions of records and is transformed from an artist into a brand. He not only shapes rap, but the entire pop culture. In his lyrics, Tupac deals with his difficult past, but also takes a stand on political and social issues. In the eyes of young rap fans and a large part of the Black community, Tupac captures the spirit of the times with his songs. Others, such as the then conservative Vice President Dan Quayle, cannot relate to his art. But such controversies only further drive Tupac's success. Almost every rap artist we see on stage today was probably inspired by Tupac, whether consciously or unconsciously. Tupac's family life is also improving again. His mother, Afeni, successfully completes a detox. The relationship between mother and son becomes closer than ever. So, in his 20s, Tupac not only has a successful career, but also a good relationship with his mother. In addition, in 1996, he falls in love with his girlfriend Kidada, with whom he soon gets engaged. But with success also comes a dark side. Tupac did not renounce the violence he knew from his youth. Again and again, he made headlines for threats, fights, and insults.
Said there were two sides to Tupac, the wonderful side and the not so wonderful.
In 1992, a scuffle broke out during an autograph session at a festival. Allegedly, Tupac then pulled a gun, but then dropped it on the ground. A shot was fired. The gun is registered in his name. He is legally allowed to have it. However, at that moment, about 90 meters from the festival grounds, a 6-year-old boy was playing in a schoolyard. He died that day from a shot to the forehead. the police were able to match the bullet to the gun that Tupac had on him. Edie, who was there the day of the incident, recalled it in a 2017 interview.
I felt terrible, and I felt even worse because it was the first time I seen Pac cry since we was kids.
Oh, he cried.
Yeah.
All of you were questioned by the police, I assume.
Mhm.
But they ultimately never found who did it.
Nope.
But Pac sort of got the blame for it.
Of course. I think he got sued.
Tupac claims that someone from his entourage accidentally discharged the weapon when he picked it up from the ground. Tupac's stepbrother came under suspicion. However, nothing could be proven against him, so that a charge was impossible. This was followed by a legal dispute with the surviving dependents of the 6-year-old. In 1995, Tupac paid the family a 6-figure sum in damages. In 1993, Tupac was arrested again for shooting at 2 plainclothes police officers. There are conflicting accounts of exactly what happened. Some say that Tupac acted in self-defense. Others claim that he was the first to draw a weapon and shoot the 2 men after an argument. The 2 police officers become entangled in contradictions. Ultimately, they agree to drop the accusations on both sides. In 1994, Tupac was seriously injured in a shootout. The incident took place 2 years before his assassination. The rapper was at Quad Studios in Times Square, New York City, when the building was raided. Tupac was hit by 5 bullets. He survived the attack, but was seriously injured. Only 5 hours after the emergency surgery that saved his life, he left the hospital against medical advice, sitting in a wheelchair. In an interview a year later, Tupac publicly suspected that he had been deliberately set up at Quad Studios. He accused the producer Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, as well as the rapper The Notorious B.I.G., also known as Biggie. Both are said to have known about the plan to attack the studio during Tupac's presence. In another interview, he recalls the attack as follows: "I fell to the ground. Everything in my head said, 'Pac, act like you're dead.' But it didn't matter. They started kicking me, beating me. I never said, 'Don't shoot.' I was quiet as hell." In February 1995, he was charged with raping a female fan. In the end, he was not convicted of rape, but of sexual assault, and was sentenced to prison. After 9 months in prison, he was released on a $1.4 million bail payment. The money came from none other than Suge Knight. Knight is the head of Death Row Records. In return for the bail payment, Tupac is obliged to release 3 albums with Suge Knight's record company. And that ends Tupac's time at Interscope, his previous label, where he also released his first album. And the change is perhaps the moment when Tupac's fate was sealed. It is September 7th, 1996. That evening, a boxing match is taking place at the MGM Grand. The MGM Grand is located in the middle of the Las Vegas Strip, the party mile of the infamous city. On September 7th, 1996, Mike Tyson is boxing against Bruce Halpin. Tupac is in the audience to watch the boxing match. He is with Suge Knight. Also, Tupac's fiancée Kidada and members of Tupac's entourage are on site. The first fans are already lining up in front of the location in the afternoon. Not only admirers of boxing legend Mike Tyson, but also of Tupac. Even before the fight, there is talk that Tupac will watch the fight that evening. Tupac himself spends the afternoon in a casino and wins a lot of money there. The boxing match does not last long. Mike Tyson defeats Bruce Halpin after 109 seconds. As early as 8:30 p.m., the first visitors are streaming out of the MGM Grand and onto the streets of Las Vegas. Tupac and Suge Knight are also on their way out. However, they get into an altercation in the lobby of the building. At around 8:50 p.m., Tupac, Suge Knight, and their entourage get into a fight with members of the Southside Compton Crips gang. The physical altercation is said to have broken out because Suge Knight is close to another gang, the Piru Bloods. And the Bloods and the Southside Compton Crips are enemies. There are many rumors about the exact details of the dispute in the casino foyer. A man is said to have told Tupac that Crips member Orlando Anderson had stolen a necklace from a member of Tupac's entourage that was released by his label Death Row Records. This is said to have led to a fight between Tupac and Orlando, in which members of both sides then became involved. Published camera footage from the evening of September 7th, 1996, shows Tupac and Suge Knight clearly fighting with members of the Compton Crips. Other sources state more precisely that someone from Suge Knight's entourage had been beaten up by a Crip a few weeks earlier. The man had apparently pointed this out to Tupac, whereupon Tupac is said to have opened the conflict. It is shortly after 9 p.m. when Tupac and Suge finally leave the MGM Grand. They drive back to the hotel where Tupac is staying with his girlfriend and his cousin. There, Tupac changes his clothes for the second part of the evening. He tells his cousin and his girlfriend about the fight with the Crips and enthusiastically recounts how he himself fought like Mike Tyson had done in the boxing ring. After that, the rapper and Suge Knight, the head of the record company, go to the after-show party. This takes place in Club 662, a location that belongs to Suge Knight. Tupac is due to perform there later that evening. The two of them get into Suge Knight's car. Tupac's bodyguard also wants to get in, but is stopped by his client. Tupac tells him to follow in a second with the others. He and Suge Knight still had a private conversation to have, because Tupac was said to have toyed with the idea of leaving Death Row Records, despite the deal with Suge Knight that had gotten him out of prison. At 11 p.m., Suge Knight was briefly stopped by a police checkpoint. The music coming from his speakers is much too loud, and the rental car has no license plates. Nevertheless, Suge Knight is allowed to continue driving. Just a few minutes later, the events that we now know as one of the most notorious murder cases in recent history begin. It is about 11:15 p.m. The car in which Tupac and Suge Knight are sitting stops at a red light on Flamingo Road. A car in which a group of young women are sitting pulls up briefly on the passenger side. The women chat briefly with Tupac, then drive off. A white Cadillac then pulls up next to Suge Knight's BMW. This is the car in which Tupac Shakur's murderer is sitting. Someone in the Cadillac opens fire on Suge Knight and Tupac. A total of 13 shots are fired at the car. 4 of them hit Tupac. 2 of them hit him in the chest. Suge Knight was injured by shrapnel to the head, but remained fully conscious. The shooting lasted only a few seconds. Then the white Cadillac drove off. Suge Knight did a U-turn and steered the car west on Flamingo Road. The car came to a stop on Harm Avenue. The first police officers and emergency doctors arrived at the scene at 11:20 p.m. One of the police officers remembers the incident very well. He opens the passenger door of the car. The seriously injured Tupac falls to the ground in front of him. He is conscious, but it is obvious that his condition is more than critical.
And I looked at him and I said, "Who shot you?" And he looked at me and he was trying to get his breath together, and I thought I was going to actually get some cooperation. So he looked back at me and he said, "F you." And after he said that, his eyes kind of rolled back, he started to gurgle, and he lost consciousness.
Tupac and Suge Knight are immediately admitted to the nearest hospital. Immediately after his admission, Tupac has to undergo emergency surgery. Due to internal bleeding, his right lung is removed.
He's had a right lung removed. He's back in his room, and again, he remains in critical condition. He's in the intensive care unit.
Is he conscious? Can he communicate with his doctor?
He has been conscious. He is under a lot of medication, so he's pretty sedated at this time. He's severely injured. Suffering multiple gunshot wounds is obviously a terrible insult to the human body. So he's in very critical condition, and he's requiring intensive care, and he is receiving that right now.
A second operation followed at noon on September 8th. Suge Knight was able to leave the hospital with minor injuries on the morning of September 8th. Tupac Shakur, on the other hand, is fighting for his life. The rapper's injuries are so severe that he had to be put into an artificial coma. According to media reports, doctors believe that he has a 50-50 chance of survival. Family members and close friends rush to his bedside and stand by him day and night. They stand guard outside the hospital room for fear that someone could come in and cause him further harm. Of course, the police are eager to question Suge Knight as a witness after his release, but he is evading the investigators. The lead investigator, Sergeant Kevin Manning of Las Vegas, expresses his frustration with the investigation to the media. He criticizes in particular the lack of cooperation from Shakur and Knight's entourage, who were at the scene during the robbery on Saturday night. Meanwhile, members of Shakur's entourage, who police say are associated with the Blood Street Gang, engage in a scuffle with police. 4 of the men are taken away in handcuffs but are later released. 5 days after the shooting of Tupac, there is another death. A Crip gang member is shot while sitting in his car. There are rumors that the murder was in retaliation for the attack on Tupac. Authorities also maintain a vigil outside Shakur's hospital room to avoid any trouble. Suge, meanwhile, finally makes himself available for questioning by the Las Vegas police. However, he claims to have no further information. Tupac is in the hospital for a week. He remains in a critical condition, is on a ventilator, and continues to have seizures. On September 13, 1996, the life of the influential musician comes to an end. The doctors have stated that the cause of death was respiratory failure and cardiac arrest. Tupac Shakur dies at the age of just 25. He was only 25 years old.
He was like 1 year older than me. You know, he was only 25 years old. We was like, what the fuck?
Although the news about Tupac's critical state of health has been circulating for days, the reactions to his death are overwhelming. Even outside the rap scene, people are shocked by the musician's violent death. The fact that a music icon can be shot like that on the open street and the perpetrator can flee is incomprehensible to many. Only about 2 months after the attack on Tupac, a witness to the crime dies. On September 7, 1996, Yaki Gaddafi was in the car that was driving behind the car of Tupac and Suge Knight. He was part of Tupac's entourage. Gaddafi is not only a friend, but also a cousin of Tupac. On November 10, 1996, Yaki Gaddafi is shot dead in an apartment in the U.S. state of New Jersey. It is later said that Yaki Gaddafi was able to observe the attack on Tupac closely. He was even able to see the shooter and had eye contact with him. However, he never made a statement to the police. Unfortunately, the exact circumstances of Yaki Gaddafi's death are not publicly known. Almost exactly 6 months after Tupac's death, another rap icon dies. On March 9, 1997, Tupac's great rival, the notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie, is shot dead in Los Angeles. The murder of Biggie was never solved either. The rapper was only 24 years old. To this day, numerous legends surround both the death of Tupac and that of Biggie. Not least, there is speculation about the extent to which these two murders could be connected. We will look at this in more detail in the following chapter, when we take a closer look at a few theories. But first things first, Tupac Shakur will not be forgotten after his violent death. If anything, his fame has only been cemented by his tragic murder. To this day, Tupac's murder remains one of the biggest pop culture phenomena worldwide. Even today, Tupac's music is streamed millions of times. Documentaries are produced and books are written about him. Again and again, the media come back to the same question: who killed Tupac, and with him one of the most successful rappers of all time? In 2018, the Netflix series Unsolved: The Tupac and Biggie Murders was released. The broadcast sparked new interest in the two mysterious murders.
Everyone seems to think they know what actually happened. Anyone who was actually familiar with Tupac or the case as it actually went down back in 1996, they say that the case is simple, and the reason that we don't have an answer 27 years later, depending on who you asked, is it just is delayed, whether it comes to, you know, young black men or people of color not being tried fairly by law enforcement, or depending on the other side, they'll call it street justice and the fact that people don't want to snitch.
There are even conspiracy theories surrounding the Tupac. Over the years, rumors have repeatedly been spread that the rapper was never shot and is still alive.
Because Tupac not dead. Tupac not dead.
Interestingly, one of the people who continues to push this theory is the son of Suge Knight, the man with whom Tupac was in a car when he was shot. He seems to have discovered the well-known conspiracy theory in 2019 as a promotional gimmick for himself. Via Instagram stories, he repeatedly implies that Tupac is still alive and working on new songs in the studio. Apparently, he is using the resulting attention to try to gain a foothold in the music business himself. But there are also frequent reports from outsiders about sightings of the rapper. Even after many years, the theory that Tupac wanted to escape the fame and have a quieter life is still quite popular. But much more interesting, and above all, more concrete, is the consideration of who could have murdered Tupac. You may have heard that someone was arrested in connection with the case at the end of 2023. However, it seems likely that Tupac's murder was a much more complex crime. The investigating police have been repeatedly criticized over the years. Some even believe there was a conspiracy by the Los Angeles Police Department. Indeed, there are some things that seem to have gone rather poorly during the investigation. In 2017, it was reported that the gun used to shoot Tupac was found in a backyard in Compton in 1998. Compton is a suburb of Los Angeles. However, no one in law enforcement seems to know the exact location of the weapon. According to this, a local resident found the weapon in Compton at the time. He then immediately handed it in to the local police station. It was only in 2006 that a police officer noticed the exact address where the weapon was found. At that time, the police file on the murder of Tupac was reviewed again, and something amazing came to light. The address matches the home of the girlfriend of a member of the Compton Crips, the gang with whose members Tupac had a fight shortly before his death. In the same year, the pistol found was declared identical to the firearm used to kill Tupac in a ballistic examination. After this examination, the weapon was actually sent to the Las Vegas police. Because Tupac was shot in Las Vegas, the local police are responsible for further investigations. However, the Las Vegas Police Department does not believe that the weapon found was really the murder weapon, even though the investigations by the Los Angeles police have confirmed that it is the weapon that was used to kill Tupac. A team of investigative journalists tried several years later to find out whether the weapon is now in the possession of the Las Vegas or Los Angeles police. Unfortunately, without success. Neither of the two police departments claims to have the weapon in their possession. Since then, the murder weapon has been considered lost, and the mystery surrounding Tupac's death has become even greater. The investigation quickly stalled in 1996. The police justified this by saying that the vast majority of witnesses were extremely uncooperative. Police violence against Black people is a complex issue then as it is now. Many rappers deal with it intensively and bring the problem into the mainstream with their lyrics for the first time in the 80s and 90s. In disadvantaged African American neighborhoods, many people adhere to the so-called code of the streets. In this social dynamic, the relationship with the police is very tense. This code of the streets is possibly one of the main reasons why we still know so little about the murder of Tupac today.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre, Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
They keep from the code of the streets. It just came from the back seat, bro.
At the same time, there's a rumor that some of the police officers in charge had close ties to Death Row Records, Suge Knight's label. However, thanks to the scant information about the murder weapon, there is at least one other connection to the Southside Compton Crips. A friend of a gang member is said to have lived where the murder weapon was found 2 years after the murder. And we know that Tupac had run-ins with members of the gang in the hours before his. This is exactly what put police on an interesting trail back in the 90s. In September 1997, a young man named Orlando Anderson files a lawsuit against the heirs of Tupac Shakur. That was just 1 year after Tupac's murder. Anderson refers to alleged damages that he suffered during the brawl with the rapper at the MGM Grand. Now he is demanding compensation for pain and suffering, because Orlando went down during the fight when several people from the circle of Tupac and Suge Knight beat him up. Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, then filed a wrongful death suit against Anderson. She claimed that Anderson was the murderer of her son, and Afeni Shakur is not alone in this suspicion. Over the years, several police officers have stated that they are certain that Orlando Anderson shot and killed Tupac. The rapper's murder could have been an act of revenge for the brawl at the casino. In addition, Suge Knight, who was with Tupac at the time, was close to a rival gang. But like so many key people in this case, Orlando Anderson is no longer alive. Anderson was killed on May 29, 1998. He was killed in a gang shootout in Los Angeles. Until the end, he always denied being responsible for the murder of Tupac.
Is it Orlando?
Yes.
Let me just ask you point blank. Did you kill Tupac Shakur?
I'm not in kill Tupac. I mean, I don't know why, you know what I'm saying? They would even say something like that.
However, there will be more decisive news regarding Orlando Anderson in 2018. But until this information comes to light, there are another 20 years filled with speculation. In the US rap scene of the 90s, there is a great rivalry between the East and West Coasts. The label Death Row Records, owned by Suge Knight and Tupac's label, belongs to the West Coast. Tupac's direct and perhaps greatest rival, however, belongs to the East Coast. The rapper, the Notorious B.I.G., or Biggie for short. He is signed to Bad Boy Records. During the 90s, there were repeated verbal exchanges between Tupac and Biggie. This is common in rap, so nothing unusual. However, there are theories that the enmity between Tupac and Biggie went far beyond internal competition. Shortly before his death, Tupac released a diss track against Biggie. Tupac's then bodyguard was not impressed. He was worried that Biggie or someone close to him might take violent revenge on Tupac. Tupac's last song, Hit 'Em Up, is a wild reckoning with rapper Biggie Smalls and other protagonists of the hip-hop competition from the East Coast. A more than serious problem for the bodyguard. Just a few days before his murder, Tupac was a guest at the MTV Video Music Awards. In an interview with rapper Snoop Dogg, he's asked about the feud with Biggie. He dismisses the issue. Although he teases Biggie, he denies that there is a serious conflict.
This is our family. We peacefully coexist right now because we all cool. Everybody's here. They sell records. We sell records. Well, I guess you could call that selling records. What they do, we sell large amounts of records, and they sell a few records. And really, it's no competition. People are really making too much out of it than it is.
Before Biggie's career took off in the mid-90s, he and Tupac were even close friends. Tupac supported the rapper, who was a year younger, and helped him get his start in the music business. However, the good relationship came to an end with the first attempt on Tupac's life in 1994. As mentioned in the first part of the video, Tupac was attacked and seriously injured in a studio at the time. He himself insisted that Biggie was one of the masterminds behind this assassination attempt. Biggie always denies this, but the incident in 1994 may be one of the reasons why he is still often mentioned as a possible suspect in Tupac's murder. It is said that Puff Daddy paid the Southside Compton Crips gang to carry out the murder of Tupac. However, there is no real evidence for this, and Biggie himself has an alibi for the night of the murder. And as mentioned earlier, he was murdered himself just under half a year later. This case also remains unsolved. However, this is where the bigger conflict comes into play again. The East Coast-West Coast rivalry is a serious matter in the scene. And at the center of it all is a man whom many today see as the wedge that was driven between Tupac and Biggie. Sean Combs, better known as P. Diddy or, in the past, Puff Daddy.
Wait, he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, did he? Yep, R.P. Rest in peace. Biggie and Pac.
Not only Tupac and Biggie are competitors, but especially the people behind the two. Suge Knight, runs Tupac's record label Death Row Records, is in a public conflict with P. Diddy, who in turn manages Biggie. Thanks to Biggie's breakthrough with his first album, P. Diddy is gaining more and more power in the rap scene. It is no secret that Suge Knight feels threatened by this. Time and again, Suge Knight attacks P. Diddy on the public stage. After one of these attacks, Suge Knight's bodyguard was murdered. Suge accuses P. Diddy of having ordered the murder. Officially, the case remains unsolved to this day. Diddy is also repeatedly mentioned as a possible mastermind behind Tupac's murder. As a mentor to Biggie, he would have had every interest in eliminating his protege's biggest rival. The possibility is also raised that Diddy paid members of the Crips $1 million to carry out the murder. This theory is also quite common in investigator circles. Maybe you still remember that the argument between Tupac and Orlando Anderson flared up in the casino because of a stolen necklace. Orlando is said to have stolen this necklace from a member of Death Row Records, Tupac's record label. There is a rumor that P. Diddy put a $15,000 bounty on the head of anyone from the rival label. This is only hearsay in the context of the theory, but it is an interesting aspect. P. Diddy himself remains silent on the allegations. When asked about it in interviews, he refuses to provide any further information. So he's not confirming the rumors, but he's not denying them either. Others believe that Suge Knight himself arranged for Tupac's murder. According to this theory, Knight owed Tupac a lot of money. It was precisely because of this debt that he and his record company were sued by Tupac's mother in 1997. In addition, Tupac was said to have been planning to sign with another record label. Suge Knight himself invited Tupac to the boxing match and then offered him a ride in his car. And he did so, even though he knew that the professional relationship between the two would possibly end. So in theory, Suge Knight could have ordered Tupac to be rolled out of the way so as not to have to pay him the millions in debt. According to a police officer who was on duty at the time, there is no record of Suge Knight actually being injured during the attack. There are no hospital or police records of the alleged bullet fragment wound. Suge Knight is currently serving a 28-year prison sentence, though not in connection with the murder of Tupac. In 2015, Suge Knight killed 2 people. You may know the movie Straight Outta Compton, which deals with the rap scene of the 90s. Suge Knight feels misrepresented in this movie. In January 2015, he encountered a man named Clee Sloan in a parking lot. He is the one who advised the film's producers. Suge Knight confronted him, and the two got into an argument. Suge Knight then hit Clee Sloan with a car, seriously injuring Sloan. Knight drove away and ran over his former business partner, Terry Carter. Suge Knight is now in his mid.
I believe that too, you know, and that's the thing, you know. People say it wasn't political, it was gang shit, but a lot of things are masked in gang shit when it's political. You know what I'm saying? And let's keep it real. Tupac died in Vegas. Biggie died in LA. You tell me, in both those high volume areas, no one seen nothing? No one seen the shooter? Nothing? No one didn't even know who it is? The Harlem niggas told me that when I was a kid. You see? That's what I'm saying. And now they're trying to distort the truth with this Keefe D cat. Yo, I ain't with it. I ain't with it at all.
Mid-50s. There are persistent rumors that he has a serious illness. It is questionable whether he will ever get out of prison again. Before his conviction, Suge Knight had repeatedly made cryptic comments and strange statements about Tupac's death in interviews. In principle, Suge Knight's behavior confirms exactly what the police say is the reason for the slow investigation. The witnesses in this case are extremely uncooperative. Nobody seems to want to talk to the police. However, there is one man who at least partially changes that. and thus makes himself extremely suspicious. In 2018, the case is once again the subject of much activity following the publication of a documentary.
Yeah, Rich Capper.
Numerous people who have an opinion on the events surrounding September 6th, 1996, appear in the media again. Among them is a man named Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe D. He claims to have been sitting in the front seat of the vehicle from which the fatal shots were fired at Tupac. At the same time, he accuses his nephew Orlando Anderson of sitting in the back seat with another person. Orlando Anderson is the member of the Compton Crips who was repeatedly suspected of shooting and killing Tupac. However, Keefe D initially refuses to name the actual shooter. He does not say whether he is accusing his own nephew Orlando or the second person, a young man named Big Dre, who was in the back seat. As a reason, he states that he must adhere to the code of the streets. Apart from a specific name, however, he does reveal numerous details from the night of the murder.
We came up Harlem, and here he coming at BMW.
Anybody who believes that Suge Knight orchestrated the murder of Tupac is smoking rocks. That nigga Suge Knight was 350 pounds. Tupac was a $165 soaking wet. Can you imagine somebody orchestrating a shooting on Tupac? Oh, let me shoot up Tupac while I'm driving on this side. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, dog. Yeah, you know? Yeah, let me get you up on the screen real quick. Yeah, man. Hit up the StreamYard real quick, man. Salute, Trap BX.
Salute, Mac Mizzle. What's up, B? Yeah, this
Tupac,
Tupac,
man.
that Tupac thing, yo. When I was a kid, right, I used to hustle in Harlem for some kids that was cool with Diddy and all of them. When I first seen them niggas, when I first seen them niggas in like '94, you heard?
Right.
Yo, I'm looking at these niggas. I'm like, yo, who the fuck is this? The hood is the hood in '94, you heard? The jewelry these niggas was wearing, this nigga Diddy was wearing, it was him and Wolf. The jewelry these niggas was wearing, bro, I knew these niggas wasn't drug dealers, you heard? It was out of this world. I'm looking at the jewelry. Them niggas was filthy rich.
I feel you on that one.
When Wolf got killed, when Diddy man Wolf got killed from New York, that's when New York stopped fucking with him.
Ah, you see? So it's a full circle thing.
Yeah, it's a full circle. BMF niggas killed Wolf. New York niggas stopped fucking with him. That's when he got into the beef with right before that is the beef at Jermaine Dupri party. Cause all of them was friends. Suge used to be in New York.
Right.
And you remember Mary J. Blige and Misa and all the R&B groups used to go get Suge to get them out the publishing deals.
Okay.
Suge was industry muscle.
Okay, so that's how Suge ended up getting all these artists.
Right. That's how you see the pictures with him and Diddy baby moms.
Yeah, because it didn't make no sense to me. I'm like,
Cause Diddy was pumping the narrative. The narrative was backwards. Death Row was for the people. Bad Boy was for himself. They painted the picture and made it seem like Suge was this big bad guy, but nah, Suge helped out Mary. He helped out Jodeci. He helped out Misa. He helped out mad people. You heard?
Ah, you see? Nah, you bringing the whole situation together because I was like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Nah, bro.
All these
Right. Remember, they keep telling you Suge is the one that went to his hood and hired everybody. Diddy cut everybody off. Diddy ain't hired none of his friends except for Gene Deal. He made Gene Deal the bodyguard. That was it.
I heard Wolf help him start Bad Boy. He gave him like
everybody helped him start.
$300,000.
Everybody helped that nigga Diddy, bro. ASAP Ferg, his father, made the logo.
Oh, say word.
His name is D
That makes sense
Ferg.
too.
His name is D Ferg.
Yeah,
the Harlem niggas helped Bad Boy get off the ground. After Andre Harrell fired them, he went to his friends. His friends was drug dealers. They was paying Diddy bills until Clive came along and gave him that money.
Yep.
Remember,
So
Andre
who was Diddy's muscle when he went out to the West Coast? Like, who is he?
When he just moved out there, this nigga, he was the gatekeeper king by then. Remember, for Diddy to move to Cali, nigga, that you know what that mean? That mean them people with you.
The people with you, yeah.
Everybody.
There was a war after Tupac died. I heard in Compton.
Yeah, the war happened with the Crips, with the Southside Crips, in the Suge neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah, that's why all the blood niggas, all the older blood niggas is mad at Suge. He went and took that money and took that shit straight. That they saying that shit was the worst thing that ever happened to their hood. That Suge got that money and came to the streets with it.
Yep, that's the worst thing that happened to the hood.
Because everybody died. You're starting to see the big picture now, right? Suge put that money in the street, bro. He ain't do. Diddy went further into the industry.
Yep.
Clive and all them niggas told him to come to LA. You heard? That was them.
They turned him out.
Him out. They gave him the power. He started doing it to everybody else. The nigga was everybody house in LA got robbed except for Diddy shit.
It's true, eh? Everybody's house got robbed.
Except for Diddy.
You sure Diddy's house didn't get robbed?
I'm telling you, nigga. I'm telling you a street fact. Diddy house did not get robbed, nigga. You hop that fence, you fuck around, get fucked in your ass.
Damn, dog.
Diddy was on some the nigga was on some Ghost from Power shit with a sprinkled in with some homosexuality. Now think about it. All the gangsters that they mentioning,
and you know, Diddy was like, yo, that whole thing was with Power. That was about my life. You know what I'm saying? He said that. Remember that?
Yeah, I knew that. Cause it's technically true. He became the gatekeeper of hip hop in '94, bro. Remember, he don't play an instrument, he don't rap, he don't write lyrics. How you get 20 million in '94 for a record label, nigga? You ain't sell one record. You styled Mary J. Blige and Jodeci and all of them.
Yeah.
You ain't sell one record. How the fuck you get 20 million from Clive Davis? He put Quincy Jones on, nigga. He was playing with niggas' balls. How you get all that money to start a record label? You ain't sell one record, bro. They made him the king of the culture.
Yep. They made him the king of the culture because it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would they give him a bunch of money and then he ends up getting all these good artists? Like, who knew him like that? Like, I don't know.
Then nobody gets paid with him.
And I don't think he had like that much of a musical talent. Like,
He did. He don't have no talent. He don't. He don't have. He's a party promoter, bro.
That's it. Yeah, it's true.
He's
Yo,
a
you
party
remember?
promoter.
You remember that college when them?
Yes,
11,
and all them people died, and all those people
Yeah.
died. Right. That's his doing.
You got the devil following him, yo. That's
You know
crazy.
that. You know that.
That's crazy. That's why on his album cover about love, he was dressed all in red like he was the new Suge Knight. Remember
Nigga
that?
is the. He is. How he not? Tell me how he not. Nigga press J. Cole. Nigga slap Drake.
It's true. He
Nigga blew up Kid Cudi car. Nigga had something to do with Big Death.
He tried to spill a drink on Kendrick too.
Right.
Yeah.
How he not the new Suge? He worse than Suge.
Yeah. He was on some bullshit, bro. I
Take him to.
I think he set Wolf up too, man. He must have set Wolf up.
He did set Wolf up. He said he got out the way for them niggas to beef. Diddy could have squashed that. Remember, Diddy got more money than Meech at the time.
He does have more money than Meech. He does have more money than Meech, yo.
Diddy was bigger than. Now think about 94. 94 is before everybody.
Yep.
Who had a label in 94 besides him?
Nobody.
Rap a lot?
But then, I mean, Death Row was around, but
it was not. No, it was not. Death Row, them niggas ain't coming around to 96.
No, but you remember they had Snoop Dogg was in 94, right?
That
Snoop
wasn't
said
Death
it in
Row.
94.
That
We don't love those. Remember?
Yeah. That was and Dr. Dre did that. And Dr. Dre was in charge of Death Row. That's where him and Suge was partners. Remember, they was partners.
Yeah.
Everybody forgot about that part, right?
They was partners, yeah.
They was partners.
Yeah. Shit's crazy, yo.
Shit is crazy when you think about it piece by piece, right?
Yeah. Let's continue to watch this little quick.
All right, come on, let's go. I'm gonna mute up.
All the chicks was like, Tupac. And he was like a celebrity, like he was in the parade. He wouldn't even been out the window. We would have never seen him.
You said the shots came from the back. Big Dre, Orlando. Who shot Tupac?
I'm gonna keep it for the cold of the streets. It just came from the back seat, bro.
In the media, Keefe D boasts about being one of the few witnesses to the murder of Tupac. In interviews, he willingly shares his version of the events of September 6th, 1996. He also says that he already talked to some police officers in 2010. At the time, he was facing a life sentence for drug abuse. Years later, however, Keefe is still free and talks to numerous media outlets about the death of Tupac Shakur. In doing so, he is trying to promote his book Compton Street Legend, which was published in 2019. In this book, he now claims that his nephew Orlando Anderson was the one who shot Tupac. Keefe merely admits to having obtained the weapon and having been in the white Cadillac. After the fight at the MGM Grand, the Compton Crips, and especially Orlando Anderson, wanted to take revenge on Tupac by shooting him. Of course, Anderson can no longer comment on this, as he was shot himself 2 years after Tupac's murder. In his book, Keefe D writes about the course of events, among other things. One of my boys in the backseat grabbed the Glock and started firing backwards. When the bullets flew, I ducked to avoid being hit. For years, Keefe D would tell the story over and over again in the media. Until 2023, that is. Because 27 years after the murder of Tupac Shakur, he is the first person to be arrested in connection with the crime.
Breaking news just into CNN. Las Vegas police have arrested a suspect in connection with the 1996 drive-by shooting death of legendary rapper Tupac Shakur.
Hey, Keefe, Metro Police, come over here. Hey, Metro Police, come over here, all right? Thanks, buddy. Come on over here. Appreciate your cooperation, okay? I'll stand right here in front of the car. Yep, brother. Yep, go and put it down. I know. Hang on. Put that down for a second, all right?
On the morning of September 29th, 2023, Keefe D is arrested in connection with the murder of Tupac Shakur. When the police approach him, he doesn't even ask why he's being arrested. He willingly went with the police officers. 2 months earlier, in July 2023, Keefe D.'s wife's house was searched. Evidence and clues related to the Tupac case were sought. Police confiscated numerous tablets, iPhones, USB sticks, computers, and photo files. The fact that Keefe D is now being arrested is sensational. However, Tupac's supporters agree that Keefe D is not the only murderer. Many still suspect P. Diddy as the actual mastermind who simply commissioned the members of the Compton Crips to commit the murder. Suge Knight also commented on the arrest of Keefe D from prison in an interview with TMZ, with a rather surprising statement.
Let's get one thing straight. First and foremost, me and Keefe D played on the same Pop Warner football team. And whatever the circumstances, if he had an involvement with anything, if he didn't have any involvement with anything, who want to see? I wouldn't wish somebody going to prison on my worst enemy. And I never had nothing bad to say about Orlando because, number one, he wasn't the shooter. Number two, he came to my hearing and told to let me go and tell the truth. They still didn't let me go.
To summarize, you are saying Orlando was not the shooter, although you won't say who the shooter was. You are not saying whether Keefe was involved in any way in the shooting. And you are saying that if you're called to testify by either side, you will not comply. You will not testify. Do I have that right?
1,000%. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't testify. None of that. At the end of the day, free Keefe D. Free Keefe D. Free Keefe D.
After the arrest of Keefe D, other people in the business have also come forward. Among them was the rapper 50 Cent. On his Instagram account, he uploaded the last photo taken of Tupac. It shows the rapper next to Suge Knight in the car in which he was shot just a few minutes later. 50 Cent writes below, "Damn, so Pac got lined by Brother Love. Lowell, time to lawyer up, shit might get sticky." In doing so, 50 Cent is referring directly to P. Diddy. This is because he is also known as Brother Love. In fact, Keefe D is said to have told in 2008 that P. Diddy had given him the order to murder both Tupac and Suge Knight. Keefe D then procured the murder weapon. Now he testifies that his nephew Orlando fired the fatal shots. It will be exciting to see whether the now 60-year-old Dwayne Davis makes even more extensive statements. If there is a breakthrough in the prosecution, I will keep you updated. With Dwayne Davis, aka Keefe D, now awaiting trial, the case of Tupac Shakur will remain in the media for some time. And it is to be hoped that it can now finally be fully resolved.
We look at death from the selfish side, like, that guy died. Oh, it's so sad. Why is it sad? He's away from all of this bad stuff that's here on earth. At the worst, he's just somewhere quiet, nothing. At best, he's an angel, or he's at the next existence, or he's a spirit somewhere, What is so bad about that? It's only bad for the people who he left, because you guys are mad. That's like some crab in the bucket type stuff. It's harsh analogy, but that's what it's like, though.
In retrospect, how would you say that your life has been? What would you say about your life? How would you define it?
I would say it's been like a test on my faith. You know what I'm saying? You know how, I guess his name was Job in the Bible, who God just did all of this crazy stuff to him just to make sure his faith was straight. And that's how it was. It made me, if I didn't have all of this stuff, I don't think that my feet would have been so firm to where I could stand up for anything, and I would be less ready to deal with what's out.
Unfortunately, Tupac's mother will no longer live to see this. Afeni Shakur died in 2016 at the age of 69. Nevertheless, numerous other relatives, colleagues, friends, and fans are still waiting for a full resolution of the case. Because that is exactly what makes the murder of Tupac Shakur such a phenomenon. The case is definitely solvable. There are people who know the truth. Two people who were present at the murder, Suge Knight and Dwayne Davis, are still alive. And one of them, Dwayne Davis, will soon be standing trial. The question is whether one of them will eventually be willing to be specific. As I said, I'll keep you updated. I'd also be interested to hear your feedback on this video. Would you like more videos on unsolved or...
Yeah. So you see that?
Yeah, man.
Suge
Knight tough. I told you he was that guy, bro. They painted a bad picture of Suge. He just made he a hood nigga, so he made hood nigga mistakes.
Yeah, he was
But
gangster,
he wasn't
though. He was
right, but he's not as he wasn't as malicious with the people as Diddy was.
Right.
Diddy took that. He went crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Diddy went crazy, bro. He went too crazy.
That's why it's kind of sad that he's getting taken down right now.
Right. He's not getting out.
He's not
You
getting
think
out.
he's getting out?
No.
You don't think he's getting out?
I
don't think he's getting out. Neither.
I mean, the lawyers that he got are pretty powerhouse lawyers, but I think somebody wants him in there. Until he gives up with certain names and stuff like that.
I don't even think he could give up a name. I think he did too much.
He did way too much, eh? Yeah.
He did, yeah. Yeah, they fixed him. He's on a one-man, and he's the first man in history to get a one-man RICO charge.
Yeah, I don't get that. Isn't RICO racketeering?
You need at least 3 people for a RICO.
It should be more than one person.
You need more than one person for a RICO. That's how I know it's a setup. You heard?
But that's what his lawyers use too. You know, like how is there one person in this whole RICO? You know.
Yeah, but he got beef. He got beef with the 1%. Now, mind you, he was doing all that fake, all that other shit. Yeah, to rappers and all that, but he was doing that shit to high-profile people. He recorded people without their knowledge. You got a different kind. He got a different kind of beef. You sued the Yagio, you sued the liquor company. You sued the liquor company and won, right? He won.
Yeah.
He won that. He's out of here, bro.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, you won that lawsuit. You got beef.
He won $1 billion.
Right. The liquor people paid cash.
Now his son's gonna take over.
They bet not. They knock their head off too. You heard? You better let that. They better let that shit die out. Enjoy their little comfortable life.
I do believe that he had something to do with Tupac's death, though, because
yes, he did. Yeah, he did. Yes, he did. Those was his mans. Keefe and them, Von Zip, all of them niggas, Haitian Jack, all of these gangsters you hear about in hip hop are Diddy friends.
Yeah. Diddy friends, yeah.
All of them, all of these niggas, bro. All of these niggas you hear about.
Even Jimmy.
Who?
Even Jimmy Henchman. All the way to Jimmy Henchman.
All of them, bro. Jimmy Henchman, Haitian Jack, all of them. Von Zip, all of them. Wolf.
Yeah, and he's doing.
All of the bad guys was with Diddy. He was richer than all of them. He had more money than all of them combined at that time, you heard? From Clive Davis, from Clive. Clive gave him that money. He was richer than everybody. Suge had to get with Tupac to get that money, you heard?
Yep.
To make Death Row worth $500 million and all that, he had to get with Pac.
Definitely.
And Diddy already had that money, nigga. He had that shit already.
Yeah, yeah.
Master P come along, Birdman
When
in the
Biggie died, he got even more money. Yeah.
yo, that's when he really went crazy. That's when it really unlocked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Them different kind of royalty checks start rolling in, you heard? 500 racks, 600 racks. He's up.
I thought, and then he paid Biggie's mom off, I heard.
Yeah, but that's the nigga after 20-something years. After you flipping the money for 20 years, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Nothing he did was real right, you heard?
Nothing he did was real right, yeah.
Nothing he did was real right. Nothing. He took and took and took and took and took.
That's a sociopath right there.
That's what he is. He's a sociopath.
He had no remorse for nothing.
You see him dressed like the Joker. Warner Brother told him, yo, cease and desist that. See that? You see when he was dressed like the Joker on Halloween?
Yeah, and then the brother confronted him. You know?
Yeah, he started pressing him. Like he didn't know who Diddy was.
He didn't know who Diddy was.
Nigga, you see that costume was so fucking good. He looked like the Joker. And what's the significance, right, of him being the Joker, bro? That nigga's a sociopath, bro. Out of all the characters you could have been, all the money in the world you got, you gonna be the Joker? Smoke that nigga immediately. Kill that nigga, you heard? He got too much money to play around. He got too much money to even play around like that, you heard?
Yep, he's a nutball. He's a nutball, bro. And then all this stuff with the sex parties and all that.
Right. That nigga's crazy, bro. Nigga really thought he was the Joker. All this shit coming out about.
He ain't even. I don't know, man. These type of dudes, man. And then people are like free Diddy and all that.
Oh yeah, you know what? Those are the niggas that was at the party. Those are the niggas that missed the party. Yo, free Diddy, man. I ain't get my dick sucked since.
It's crazy, man.
That's them people letting you know what side they on. What kind of, know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, we not freeing no nigga like that for what? Him to try to fuck on our kids and we gotta kill him and we gotta go to jail? Nah, leave that nigga right there.
Yeah. And this whole thing about Keefe D telling on a dead man, I ain't rocking with that. I ain't rocking with that, you know. Because Orlando say he didn't do it. But then Keefe D turned around and said, yeah, he did it. I was right there. And he got a proffer agreement in LA.
Yep.
I mean, if you got a good lawyer, the lawyer is gonna tell you, yo, you still on the hook in Nevada, you know? So I don't know, man. It's kind of weird still, you know. They're trying to close this case, but like you said, I think the same people that hit Pac hit Biggie too, you know?
Yeah, it's the same people, bro.
And
that's why nobody never got caught.
Yeah.
It's the same people.
Wow.
Remember, in LA, Bloods and Crips, a lot of them older ones are together. They break bread.
But they're trying to act like it was an NOI dude that hit Biggie.
Nigga, that shit might have been a ruse, nigga. He could have been Crip. The Crips and the Bloods, the Crips and the Bloods run that shit, bro. Them niggas is the police. Them niggas is everything. NOI is strong, but they not get away with murder strong.
What are you talking about, Chopper Teeth? Yeah. They are the police and yeah,
they out there, you heard? So it's the NOI is strong, but they not get away with murder strong. You heard? The Crips and the Blood is like that.
That same night that Orlando was out there, that dude Reggie, what was it? That cop Reggie
White. Yeah, he had something to do with it too.
Yeah.
He had something to do with Pac getting killed.
His pops was out there. Yeah. It's crazy.
He had something to do with that shit.
Gets deep.
Yep.
So they were like, yo. I don't understand why Orlando was right there waiting for these niggas to jump him. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yo.
Was literally waiting for these to jump him.
Yeah, nigga. Them niggas was waiting to knock. Niggas want to kill them niggas. Diddy want to kill Pac, bro.
For what though? What did Pac do to Diddy?
They couldn't lure him into them sex traps. Remember, they was swingers at first. They was all Diddy. No. Was fucking Kim. It was over Kim. Pac was fucking Kim too.
Kim like Pac. Oh
yeah.
Shit, for real.
And the nigga Diddy tried to get the nigga Pac to do some shit it wasn't against, and he flipped out. And they wasn't friends ever since. Cause remember, Diddy and Pac is friends, not Biggie. That's why the beef is with Pac and Puffy, not Biggie. It's not between Biggie and Pac. It's Biggie and Puff.
Remember when Pac said you could tell the niggas whatever you want, but you and I know what's going on.
It was going, yeah. That's he talking to Puff.
Yeah.
Remember, Pac is an A1 celebrity at the time. Diddy is an A1 celebrity. Diddy bigger than Diddy knew all the celebrities before Biggie. Remember, Diddy's the boss. He been going to LA and all that, traveling with Clive, Quincy Jones and them niggas. He know Will Smith. He know all of them. He knew all of them. He was in already. He knew all Haitian Jacks and all of them type of niggas already. He's bigger than Biggie. Him and Pac is on the same level. Remember, Pac is a superstar. Big is a star, but Pac was a superstar. Him and Puff was beefing. That's why he kept saying bad boy. Bad boy is Puff. That beef, that East Coast.
F Bad Boy is a staff record label and
right. Fuck Puff on all levels.
Bad Boy, F you too. Chino XL.
Yep. Right. He said fuck Puff on all levels.
F you too.